Let's break down this Mike Brown situation. All right, Chris, as I am seeing this whole thing unfold, you had step one. We were having this conversation already, right?
Yeah.
Step one, or the first thing that happens, is James Ham puts out a piece, and basically it is saying,
well, we even heard this before that. Remember
right,
the Sam Amick and Anthony Slater article? I think it was immediately after the Kings season was over, saying, not necessarily. I guess it wasn't as much reporting, but it was just, hey, Mike Brown still doesn't have an extension, and that's a bit strange. That kind of put it on the radar initially.
Right. So that puts it on the radar. Then James Ham writes something, and some account, Basketball on X, takes an excerpt from James Ham's article and makes it seem like the Kings aren't happy with Mike Brown. James Ham comes out and says, that's not how I was trying to write it. Nobody would be happy if they missed the playoffs. You had Carmichael Dave last week say that he believes that this extension is going to happen, and even gave some estimates on figures. And then what was it, Chris? Was it over the weekend with Woj? Is that when the Woj one happened, or was that Friday?
We'll just
one of those days.
Weekend,
so then the next step is Woj hops in and basically says what that basketball account was saying about the initial piece from James, that there is some smoke to this as far as the Kings wanting, or not sure that they, I guess, want to pay Mike Brown that much because he hasn't performed at a level they think is good enough for that payday. And then last but not least, a very similar report from Mark Stein, who goes on to say, and here it is, extension talks for Sacramento's Mike Brown, however, have broken down as Brown enters the final guaranteed season of his original 4-year deal. The sides hold what has been described as a mutual option for 2025-26, yet it appears that the combination of Brown's desire for a significant salary bump and the Kings' postseason disappointments of the past 2 springs has given his bosses pause. Yes. And that is where we currently are, unless something happened within the last 40 minutes.
Not to my knowledge, thankfully. But I did want to confirm for you, the Woj article came out on Friday. And the thing that was really concerning on Friday, which feels like forever ago at this point, was the word, or the term, Coach Kings and Coach Mike Brown remain, quote, with a gulf on a potential deal, and have tabled talks. So essentially that there is a very wide gap in the conversation between the two when it comes to his contract. Alan, and all I had to say immediately when I saw that news, and I mean instantly, I have Woj notifications on my phone. I have Shams notifications on my phone. So I saw it immediately when it dropped. And all I had to say was, it does not have to be like this. There is infinite amount of ways to avoid this kind of situation when a coach is the most successful coach that this franchise has had in 20 plus years. He immediately brings winning to this franchise that had not had a winning record in 20 plus years. And what we have to think about it. We have to think about, do we want to re-up on this? I'm not even saying Mike Brown has to be the coach of the, don't have to give him a lifetime contract. Just give him 2 to 3 to 4 years max, and then figure it out. Because you know what? He's held up his end of the bargain so far. He's done exactly, besides missed the playoffs this year, but 46 wins is good enough to make the playoffs in just about any other year. He's done everything that could have been asked of him besides make the playoffs this year. I don't really know why we're balking at this. I don't get it. I don't understand. And again, there's not some young coach out there that has everyone's eye that the Kings feel like they can go get. This is just a matter of they feel like, I don't know. I kind of want to be smart about this. Are we sure we want to throw Mike Brown that kind of money? Are we sure we want to commit to him? Yes, you do.
You know what I'm thinking now, Chris? If, assuming all this stuff that's coming out is true, it makes that golfing picture feel a little different. It was probably pretty awkward. It was probably pretty awkward, unless they're just going through the necessary channels. I don't know, but if that was underlying, or if this has been underlying this whole time, you can be cordial, but it's awkward.
Yeah.
It's awkward.
Oh,
and to me,
they know it's there.
They know it's there.
Everyone knows when their contracts.
It just reeks of new money, right? It just reeks of new money as far as, oh, we think we can do better than Mike Brown. Well, the last 16 years says you cannot. Yeah. Right. So who are you to now say that the guy who has raised the worth of your franchise or helped by $1 billion, the guy who has a relationship with the number one free agent you are trying to retain in Malik Monk, who are you to say that we can do better at this exact point in time? Yeah. It's completely unnecessary. I hope it doesn't bite them in the butt, but I don't see how it doesn't. We talked last week about Malik Monk and how this will affect, or this could affect how he moves forward, because if he doesn't know who's going to be the coach or what's going to happen, and he's looking for a 4-year deal, it's just, you put yourself in situations, and this happens in a lot of areas in life. There's just issues that you don't have to deal with. Yes. They are very avoidable situations. Yes. This is an incredibly avoidable situation. Yeah. There's not even a good second option. Oh, so you're either penny pinching and you don't want to pay him, right? Or pay him the same amount.
The going rate for coaches these days.
The going rate, or you think that there is another guy out there, but you're not really sure who. And now that you finally have some momentum, you're going to restart, possibly lose Malik Monk and restart with whoever. I guess they're assuming they're going to make a big move. And if Harrison Barnes or Kevin Huerter isn't there, this new coach would start there. In the midst of one of the hardest Western conferences you've ever been a part of, you finally have some stability. You're watching guys like Michael Malone hoist up the Larry O'Brien. You're seeing all this happen, and you're going to try to pinch pennies? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, and you just brought up Michael Malone too, and it reminds me that the last 2 times that the Kings have had any sort of success at head coach, they just let them go the next season, or didn't even let them get to the end of the season. Dave Yeager had this team at 39 wins. I know there's a bunch of behind the scenes stuff that kind of went wrong there. More so Dave's coaching style wasn't meshing, but who did they bring in after Dave Yeager? Luke Walton. Absolutely complete miscalculation there. And then the other one is Mike Malone. He had this team going on the right direction. Everybody knows the story. DeMarcus gets sick. They use that as an excuse to fire Malone and go get their guy eventually in George Karl. Didn't work out. And so this, to me, would be making the same exact mistake. Is you have Mike Brown finally building something here in Sacramento, except this time he actually has results, not just, hope, not just 39 wins, not just the team hasn't played this well in X amount of years. You have playoffs. You have 46 wins. You have winning records. And I feel like we're going to make this. I don't feel as if it's going to end this way, but it feels like we're possibly trending towards a direction where they're going to make the same mistake of, again, using Steve Kerr as the example of Mark Jackson to Steve Kerr brought that team over the hump, and we're going to look
Somebody's
to do a
saying
similar
that
thing.
On the Sac Chat
That's
right now.
not this at all. Or even if it is that, and again, I'm not saying you have to lock down Mike Brown for the rest of his life, but it's just not the time right now. This team still has some room to grow internally with this current group. And then maybe there's another leap. And even then, I'm not saying it has to be Mike Brown leaving that makes that leap happen. It's been said countless times, but what about the players that were out there? Mike Brown was searching on his bench all year long. Is it his fault that he couldn't trust Chris Duarte to give good minutes? Is it his fault that Sasha Vezenkov wasn't the guy that he wanted in terms of a player profile, the kind of guy that he wants to play? No, he wants to play Juan Toscano Anderson. I just don't really see how you would have to be doing a lot of dancing to figure out how to pin this enough on Mike Brown to fire or to not renew his contract, to let him possibly walk and go to a situation where, again, Mike Malone's hoisting trophies over there. I'm not saying Mike Brown's going to do that if he leaves, but he's not going to go to a bad situation if he leaves. I'll tell you that.
Mark Jackson coached the Warriors from 2011 to 2014. So this wouldn't even be
wasn't a coach before him. Like,
exactly.
It's a completely different situation.
Exactly. This wouldn't even be that same amount of time. I guess if you let him coach this as a tryout season, which, like you said, is kind of a slap in the face, and people just don't typically do that. Coming up next, we continue the conversation. Has Mike Brown been good enough? 916-339-1140. Has he been good enough, or do you want to upgrade as well. Stiles and Watkins, Sactown Sports.
The Sacramento Kings